Ethiopia has accused Egypt of driving up tensions in its long-running dispute over the Nile River. This after the Egyptian Foreign Minister Badir Abdelati, in an interview, indicated that the negotiations between the two countries have reached a dead end and that Egypt retains the full right to defend its water rights and national interests if they are threatened. This impasse comes months after Ethiopia inaugurated Africa's largest hydro dam, the Grand Renaissance Dam, which is set to harness the power of the Nile River and provide electricity to Ethiopia and its neighbors. For more on this, we're joined on the line by Gordon Kachola, the CEO of the Africa Center for Diplomatic Affairs. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Good to have you with us on Africa in Business. Welcome. Are you with us, Mr. Kachola? All right.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, lovely. We hear you now. Welcome. So, the Egyptian Foreign Minister, Badir Abdelati, says that they've tried negotiations for more than 13 years now, and they've been trying to find common ground with Ethiopia on this matter. Why is it that they cannot seem to be meeting each other? Why can they not find a common ground on the issue of the Nile River waters?
Well, you cannot go to well, you cannot. Thank you very much for having me on this particular hour. On matters Nile and the Nile waters, the truth is Nile is freezing, and it's not just freezing literally, it's freezing to break bonds that has always held the entire Horn of Africa region together. It is apparent that there is no kind of negotiation that will deter Ethiopia from doing what they're doing. Remember, at some point, Prime Minister Abiy of Ethiopia did mention to Parliament, actually while addressing members of Parliament, he did say that they would rather they would rather muscle all the troops they have to go and die in Egypt, but not to be stopped from constructing the dam. So this clearly indicates that Ethiopia is not willing to stop and cannot stop where they have reached so far. And one thing Egypt must realize that some of the Anglo-African agreements that were made back then in the 50s, in the 40s, 30s to 60s and 70s cannot actually cannot hold water today. Things have changed, and the only thing that Egypt must realize that there are more population upstream that needs this water. Demands have increased. So it is upon them to go to the negotiation table, at least saying we recognize the fact that when these agreements were made, upstream, the population wasn't what it is today. Go to the negotiation table with agreements that were made in the 50s, when populations in some of these upstream countries were not what they are today. Everyone will say, well, I will use what is within my territory as I wish. So it is clear that Egypt may not get what they want if they go to the negotiation table with chest stamping, saying they have a right. No, we must all get to the negotiation table acknowledging the fact that times have changed. Yes.
And on that note, Mr. Kachola, you mentioned international law and violations. The Foreign Minister, Badir Abdelati, has called the description of the Ethiopian dam illegal and illegitimate as well as unilateral. And he says that this project violates international law. What does he mean by this, and what can we read from this?
Well, within the frames of international law, the Nile water upstream needs not to be used in a manner that is likely to injure those who are downstream, more particularly the Egyptians. Because remember, Egyptians depend on this Nile water basically on everything, be it electrical, be it hydropower, be it irrigation, be it domestic. So all manner of use of water, they depend on on the Nile waters. But now, to term this illegal, it can only say that at the international law level. But does really international law, is international law a law? Who enforces the international law? So again, Egypt must recognize that even the international law they are now talking about does not have enforcers. It is only implemented on a goodwill basis. So if they recognize it is implemented on a goodwill basis, therefore, it's time they begin to negotiate on the terms of nationalism. What does Ethiopia want? What does Sudan needs? And what does any other country, of all the 7 countries that share this Nile water, what do they need that in the end will benefit them and will benefit the Egyptians and will not negate what their livelihoods? I think that is the point with which they must begin to appreciate.
And why is it that they actually can't find this common ground where there is a win-win situation? Because we understand the Renaissance Dam is critical for Ethiopia's industrialization plans. But let's perhaps focus on some of the risks if regional tensions delay the power export agreements, as we're seeing now.
Well, the entire African continent, everyone is running towards industrialization. We cannot industrialize in Africa without power. And some of this, the power we need, majorly, we again want to go green. So in this green transition period, we want to ensure that whatever power we generate is power that is sustainable. Now, the reason as to why there can't be a solution to this, even in the coming days, as soon as we may wish, is because the interest in play or the interest at play are just too enormous. Remember, at some point, America had volunteered to negotiate peace between the 2 countries. But when you are negotiating peace, whose interest are you negotiating peace upon? Because even before immediately Egypt welcomed the idea, and then Ethiopia said, no, America is biased. They are already biased towards Egypt. So already whoever is going to negotiate this, we must coil back to Africa and look for an African-based solution. Let us not run towards East or West looking for solutions on matters that can be gotten, solutions that can be gotten directly within Africa.
On a larger scale, Mr. Kachola, how might geopolitical friction between Egypt and Ethiopia spill into trade routes, cross-border investments, or even regional infrastructure projects?
Well, the truth is, it will escalate. This tension will definitely escalate further, because you remember just the year 2024 when the year began. Is it 24 or 25? When Somaliland did make some agreement with Ethiopia, who were the first people to respond? It was Egypt. And responded how? Went straight to, they called on Somalia. Somalia went to Cairo. The Mogadishu regime went to Cairo, and they made some military agreement. Some military equipment was shipped into Mogadishu. That tells you how this tension could easily escalate. And if not taken care of, you know, I normally call the Horn of Africa a laboratory where all manner of tests are done. Today, if it is not civil war, then it is some kind of political unease or political tension within the region, or some kind of terrorism. So even this, if we are not keen, Ethiopia has just moved out of another civil tension between the Tigray and the government of Ethiopia. What are the likelihoods that we cannot go back there? They are very high if this situation is not managed properly and managed quickly.
Mr. Gordon Kachola, we'll have to leave it at that for this afternoon. We thank you very much for your insight as we deliberate on this very important issue. We thank you for your time, sir.